The arrival. The void of space was endless and dark, a silence broken only by the hum of distant stars and the faint glow of planets circling in their lonely paths. The Galactic Empire had ruled this silence for centuries. Its fleets were vast, its warships strong, and its captains proud. To most of the galaxy, the Empire was a giant, a name that crushed hope before hope could even rise. Races across the stars bent their heads and obeyed, never daring to laugh, never daring to fight. On this day, however, something strange disturbed the order of things. At the edge of Imperial territory, sensors caught new signals. They were steady, strong, and alien. No registration codes, no familiar patterns. An unknown fleet had entered their space. In the command bridge of the Imperial patrol, officers bent over glowing screens. Their commander, a tall figure dressed in dark armor with golden trim, frowned as he studied the readings. "What race dares to cross here?" he asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried sharp irritation. The junior officers exchanged uneasy looks. The Empire was used to weak creatures testing its borders, small ships lost in the dark, or desperate rebels searching for refuge. These intruders, however, were different. There were too many of them. Their formation was too precise, and the power readings were unusual. "They are crude ships, Commander," one officer said at last. "Heavy frames, unrefined engines, very primitive designs. They do not resemble anything in our archives. Perhaps another minor race struggling for survival." The commander's lips curved into a cold smile. "Then we will teach them the cost of stepping into the Emperor's domain." Far ahead, the strange fleet drew closer. Soon the darkness revealed their shapes. The officers leaned forward as the first vessel came into view. A massive structure of black iron layered in thick armor, its body long and sharp like a blade pointed at the stars. It was not graceful like the shining ships of the Empire. It did not carry the beauty of imperial design. Instead, it looked heavy, brutal, a machine built for war. "Ugly," one officer muttered, almost with disgust. "Ugly and slow. A single strike could tear it apart." The commander narrowed his eyes. He was not so quick to judge. The vessel's armor gleamed faintly, reflecting starlight with unnatural sharpness. Behind it, more ships followed. Dozens, maybe more, each shaped in the same style, dark, strong, and silent. Together they moved like a wall of iron pushing forward. The Empire bridge fell silent. Even the officers who had mocked the ships now stared without words. There was something unsettling in the way the fleet advanced. It was not fear, not hesitation. It was certainty. The strangers did not stop, did not slow. They flew forward as if the Empire did not matter. "Open a channel," the commander ordered. His voice echoed through the bridge. "Let us remind them whose stars they travel." A tone filled the air as the signal stretched across the void. The commander's voice thundered through the comms, carried to every alien ship in range. "This is the fleet of the Galactic Empire," he declared. "You have crossed into Imperial space without leave. Power down your engines, lower your shields, and prepare for boarding. Obey, and you may be spared." Silence followed. The commander waited, his officers standing tall and certain behind him. No race had ever refused an imperial order and survived. The power of the Empire was law. Then a voice answered. It was not trembling. It was not desperate. It was not filled with respect. Instead, the voice was calm, deep, and strangely amused. "Is this how the mighty Empire always speaks? Loud and full of empty air?" The bridge froze. The words echoed in the commander's ears like a slap. "What did they say?" An officer whispered, his face pale. The voice continued, sharper now, with a hint of laughter. "You speak as if you are feared, but to us you sound like children yelling in the dark. Tell us, do you always announce your weakness so clearly?" Laughter followed. Real laughter, human laughter, rolling through the comms with no fear at all. The commander's jaw tightened. Rage burned in his eyes, but deeper inside a shadow stirred. No one had ever spoken to the Empire this way. No one had ever laughed. The unknown fleet kept moving. Their iron ships glowed faintly with rows of golden lights. Their size seemed to grow larger as they approached, filling the view screens, pressing into the minds of the officers. The silence between each laugh felt heavier than cannon fire. "Identify yourselves," the commander demanded. His voice cracked slightly with fury. Another voice answered. "We are humanity, and we are here not to bow, not to beg, but to see if the stories about your so-called empire are true. So far, all we see are ships that shine like glass." The word glass spread through the bridge like poison. Glass was fragile, breakable, weak. The humans laughed again, louder this time. They did not stop. They mocked, they joked, they turned the Empire's order into comedy. And with every word, every laugh, the officers of the Empire felt something they had never known before. Unease. The commander's hands gripped the armrest of his chair until his knuckles turned white. His heart pounded in his chest. In his mind, a question took shape, one he could not silence. What if these strange, ugly ships were not weak? The arrival of humanity had shattered the silence of space. It had broken the calm rule of the Empire. In that moment, the commander understood something terrible. The galaxy had changed. A race had arrived that did not fear them. A race that mocked them. A race that laughed. And laughter, he realized, was more dangerous than any weapon. The first exchange, the human laughter still echoed across the void, a sound so strange and heavy that it unsettled every heart on the Imperial bridge. The commander's officers shifted in silence, each one pretending to be calm, but their eyes betrayed them. This was not how encounters usually went. Aliens begged. Aliens feared. Aliens obeyed. But these newcomers, these humans, had only mocked. The commander rose from his chair, his dark armor reflecting the light of the screens. His voice carried sharp anger as he ordered, "Send another message. Make them understand." One officer, pale and hesitant, nodded and activated the comms again. The commander leaned forward, his words heavy and commanding. "You stand before the might of the Galactic Empire," he said. "We are rulers of 1,000 worlds. We are the shield and sword of this galaxy. You will cease your advance, you will surrender your weapons, or you will be crushed under our fire." His words thundered across the void. Silence followed, but this time the pause felt even heavier than before. The officers held their breath, waiting. Perhaps the humans would finally bow. Perhaps the laughter would stop. Then the channel opened again. A calm voice answered. "You speak of shields and swords, yet your fleet looks like toys. Tell me, does the mighty Empire always hide behind loud words when it feels small?" The human voice carried no fear, no hesitation, only the smooth tone of someone who knew the balance of power was already in his hands. Another human voice joined, this one softer, almost amused. "Your ships shine like polished glass, pretty to look at, but one strike and they will shatter. Do you polish them every morning to hide the cracks?" Laughter erupted again. Real human laughter, rolling into the ears of every Imperial officer. The commander's face burned with rage, but inside, something far worse began to grow. Doubt. No one had ever spoken this way. No one had ever dared to mock the Empire's weapons. Yet these humans not only dared, they enjoyed it. "Interference detected," one officer reported quickly. "They are cutting through our jamming attempts." "They should not be able to do that with such crude technology," another officer added in a nervous whisper. "Their signals, it is like they already know our channels. It is almost as if they studied us." The commander slammed his fist against the armrest. "Enough, prepare the cannons. If they want to laugh, we will silence them with fire." The order rippled across the fleet. Massive warships shifted in position, their glowing weapons powering up. The silence of the void turned heavy with the hum of energy gathering at the tips of Imperial cannons. On the human side, there was no movement. Their iron vessels continued forward in perfect formation, their lights shining cold and steady. The sight unnerved even the bravest Imperial officers. It was as if the humans did not care. "Final warning," the commander shouted across the channel, his voice breaking into fury. "One more word of disrespect and we will erase you from existence." The humans answered with a long silence. For a moment, the bridge crew believed it was over. Then the same amused voice returned. "Erase us? That is a bold claim for an empire whose weapons cannot even scratch us." Laughter followed again, louder, sharper, filling the comms like thunder. Then the humans added something more. "But we welcome your attempt. Fire, and let us see if your legends are more than empty stories." The commander froze. His officers looked at him with wide eyes. The humans were not only unafraid, they were daring him to attack. They were inviting the Empire's fire. For the first time in his career, the commander hesitated. His hand hovered above the control that would unleash the strike. Doubt pulled at his mind, but pride roared louder. The Empire could not be mocked. The Empire could not appear weak. "Fire," he ordered at last. A cannon blast roared from the nearest warship, a spear of blazing plasma cutting across the void. It slammed into the nearest human vessel. The explosion bloomed like fire across the darkness, sparks scattering into the endless night. The Imperial officers straightened with pride, relief flashing across their faces. Surely nothing could withstand such force. The light faded. The human ship emerged from the smoke untouched. Its armor gleamed faintly, the same cold iron surface unbroken, unmarked, as if the attack had been nothing more than a child's thrown stone. The bridge fell silent. The commander's heart skipped a beat. Then the human voice returned, laughing once more. Was that it? A fireworks show? It was pretty, I admit, but hardly worth our time. Another voice followed, mocking and cruel. Perhaps you should save your energy. You may need it when you flee. The laughter filled the comms again, louder and longer this time. Officers lowered their eyes, afraid to meet the gaze of their commander. Fear spread like ice across the room. In that moment, every man and woman on the bridge knew the truth. The humans were not the weak ones. The humans were in control, and the Empire, for the first time in centuries, had become the target of someone else's laughter. The arrival had been strange. The first words had been mocking. But this was something far worse. This was the beginning of humiliation, and the humans had only just begun. The test of power, the bridge of the Imperial flagship, was silent. The officers who had once laughed at the crude design of the human ships now stared with pale faces. Their commander clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His pride burned hotter than any plasma cannon, yet his pride was wounded. He had unleashed the fire of the Empire, and it had done nothing. Nothing. Across the void, the human vessels glided forward, their iron hulls catching the faint glow of distant stars. They looked heavier, stronger, even more terrifying in the aftermath of the failed strike. Their lights shimmered with a cold confidence, as if they were not warships at all but predators circling prey. The comms hissed, and once again human voices filled the air. Calm, steady, almost playful. "So this is the strength of the Galactic Empire," a human said. A bright flash, some smoke, and nothing more. "We expected more from the rulers of 1,000 worlds." Another voice followed, this one filled with laughter. "If this is your strongest weapon, then your empire is built on lies. Did you really think your glass cannons would scare us?" The laughter stung worse than any blade. The Imperial officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had fought rebels, pirates, and strange races from the edge of the galaxy, but never had they been mocked in battle. Never had their weapons been laughed at. "Commander," one officer whispered nervously, "perhaps we should reassess." The commander turned on him sharply, his eyes blazing. "We do not retreat from mockery. We do not fear words." But the truth weighed heavy on every heart. These humans had already broken something the Empire had always depended on, the illusion of invincibility. "Arm the secondary batteries," the commander ordered. His voice cracked with fury. "They cannot laugh forever." The fleet adjusted. More cannons glowed, ready to unleash fire. The Imperial ships spread out, encircling the humans. This time they would fire together, a storm of plasma that no vessel could withstand. On the human side, the ships did not move. They did not prepare shields. They did not scatter or run. They simply waited. Their formation held strong, their silence broken only by faint bursts of laughter over the comms. "They are daring us," an officer whispered. "They are mocking us," another replied. The commander's pride could no longer endure the weight of humiliation. He gave the order, "Fire." The void lit up in a storm of blinding light. Plasma bursts screamed across the darkness, dozens of warships unleashing their fury at once. Explosions bloomed across the stars, filling space with fire and chaos. It was a sight that had ended countless battles. Whole planets had fallen before such storms. Entire species had vanished under such fire. The bridge crew leaned forward, their eyes wide, waiting for the smoke to clear, waiting to see twisted wreckage, waiting for proof that the Empire was still supreme. The fire faded. The humans remained. Not a single ship had been destroyed. Not a single crack appeared in their armor. They floated forward, untouched, unbroken, their dark iron hulls shimmering in the light of the failed storm. The silence that followed was worse than death. The humans spoke again, their voices sharp with mockery. "Was that the full strength of your 1,000 worlds?" one asked. "We have seen fireworks at children's festivals with more power," another human voice joined in. "You wasted all that energy, and for what? To polish our ships with your light? You should thank us, for we allowed you the show. Laughter. Cold, merciless laughter. The Imperial crew lowered their eyes. The commander's hands trembled. He had spent his life believing the Empire could never be challenged. But now before his eyes that belief crumbled. The humans had stood against the storm and had not even raised a hand in defense. Then came the moment that froze every heart. A human ship shifted, its massive cannons glowing faintly. But instead of unleashing destruction, it fired a single shot. A thin beam of energy that cut across the void with terrifying precision. It did not strike an Imperial warship. It passed close by, slicing through space so near that the hull of the nearest vessel shook under the pressure. The beam vanished as quickly as it appeared. Leaving behind silence, the message was clear. "We could have destroyed you," the humans said, "but we did not. Remember that." The commander swallowed hard, his throat dry. His officers sat frozen, their fear written across their faces. The humans had demonstrated a truth the Empire could no longer deny. They were not weak. They were not crude. They were strong, perhaps stronger than the Empire itself. The humans spoke one last time before cutting the channel. "We laugh, not because we are foolish. We laugh because you are not dangerous." The words struck deeper than any weapon. The commander lowered his eyes, unable to meet the stares of his own crew. The laughter of humanity still rang in his ears, a sound he knew he would never forget. The test of power was over. The results were clear, and the Galactic Empire had failed. The collapse of pride. The laughter of the humans lingered in the comms like a cruel echo. The Imperial fleet floated in silence, their cannons cooling, their pride broken. The commander sat rigid in his chair, but inside his strength was crumbling. He had believed in the eternal power of the Empire, but now all he saw was weakness reflected in the mocking voices of humanity. The officers around him avoided his gaze. They whispered among themselves, their voices low and fearful. "They knew our weapons would fail," one muttered. "They allowed us to fire, just to humiliate us," another added. No one denied it. The humans had not struck to destroy, only to prove superiority. And that single precision shot, a line of fire that had grazed one Imperial warship without touching it, was the most terrifying blow of all. It told the Empire that the humans could have ended them in a heartbeat, but chose not to. The commander tried to rally his men. "They are only one fleet," he growled. "One enemy. The Empire has crushed many before them. Do not let their words poison you." But his voice lacked its old strength. He heard it himself, and so did his crew. The words sounded like desperation, not command. The comms hissed again. A new human voice spoke, colder than before. "We know your ships. We know your designs. Every weak spot, every flaw. Your armor is thin here. Your engines vulnerable there. Your cannons waste more energy than they release. Do you think we did not study you before we came?" Gasps filled the bridge. Officers turned pale as the humans listed their secrets one by one, each weakness spoken aloud with cruel accuracy. The humans knew the Empire's ships better than the Empire knew them themselves. "How could they know?" an officer whispered. His voice shook. "How could they know everything?" Laughter followed again, sharper this time, slicing through their pride like a blade. The Empire's fleet began to waver. Ships shifted out of formation. Some captains reduced power to their weapons, afraid of provoking a strike. The tight discipline of Imperial command dissolved into scattered fear. The commander shouted orders, his voice raw. "Hold formation. Do not retreat. We are the Empire." But the humans answered with mocking words that cut deeper than his commands. "Empire?" one voice asked. "Is this the Empire that rules 1,000 worlds? 1,000 slaves, perhaps. You rule through fear because you have nothing else. And now before us your fear is laid bare." The laughter came again, louder than ever, filling the void with scorn. On board the Imperial ships, pride collapsed. Some captains muted their comms to hide the sound, but the laughter rang in their minds. Others began shutting down their targeting systems, refusing to raise weapons that would only shame them further. The might of the Empire, the pride of generations, was breaking apart under nothing but words. The commander felt his throat tighten. His officers avoided his eyes, unwilling to stand with him. He slammed his fist on the armrest, but the sound was hollow. His anger could not bring back the fear they had lost. He thought of the Emperor, the throne that demanded obedience, the legacy of unbroken rule. How could he face the Emperor with this? How could he explain that they were mocked until they lost their will? The humans spoke once more, their voices slow and deliberate. You thought we came to beg. You thought we came to kneel. But we came only to laugh. Because you are not the giants you claim to be. You are shadows dressed in gold. The commander's chest tightened as the words echoed. Shadows dressed in gold. That was what they were now. A hollow image, glittering on the outside but empty inside. The imperial fleet that had once brought terror wherever it flew now floated like a cornered animal. No courage, no strength, no pride. Only silence. The humans did not fire again. They did not need to. Their victory was already complete. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had been brought to its knees. Not by battle, not by destruction, but by humiliation. The commander lowered his head. His heart ached with shame. The laughter of humanity still rang in his ears, a sound that would never leave him. He knew in that moment that this day would be remembered forever. Not as a battle, not as a defeat, but as the day the Empire was mocked into silence. And silence, he realized, was more painful than death. The silent victory, the void of space, had fallen still. The Imperial fleet, once the terror of the stars, now drifted like broken statues. Their weapons were quiet, their crews hollowed by shame. Pride had been stripped from them layer by layer, until nothing remained but silence. The commander sat in his chair, motionless. His eyes stared at the screens that showed the human warships. They remained in perfect formation, their iron hulls steady, their lights glowing like cold fires in the dark. Not one of them had fallen. Not one of them had even bent under the storm of the Empire. And still they had not attacked. This silence was not mercy. It was worse. The comms cracked again and the humans spoke for the last time. You are finished, the voice said, calm and steady. Your weapons failed, your pride broke, your fear rules you now. We do not need to fire. You have already surrendered. The commander wanted to deny it. He wanted to rise and shout that the Empire was eternal, that the Emperor's will could never be mocked. But the words died in his throat. His officers no longer looked to him with respect. Their eyes were filled only with the reflection of human laughter. The humans continued, their words slow and deliberate, each one striking deeper than any blade. You call yourselves rulers of 1,000 worlds, yet you tremble before us. If this is the strongest empire in the galaxy, then the galaxy is weak indeed. We do not seek your throne. We do not seek your lands. We came only to see if your stories were true. And now we know they are not. The final laugh came, echoing across every ship, filling every ear, carving itself into memory. Then the comms went silent. For a long moment nothing moved. The human ships floated still, their presence heavy, their silence louder than war. Then slowly they turned. Engines flared and one by one the massive iron vessels began to withdraw. No pursuit, no destruction, no trophies taken. They simply left, vanishing into the endless stars, leaving only the echo of their laughter behind. The Empire's fleet did not follow. They could not. Their spirits were broken, their courage gone. The commander lowered his head into his hands. He had not been defeated by weapons. He had been defeated by words, by scorn, by laughter, and that defeat was heavier than any battlefield loss. Whispers spread across the ships. Officers and crew, shaken to their core, repeated the words of the humans. They spoke of armor stronger than any weapon. They spoke of laughter that cut deeper than fire. And above all, they spoke of fear. The fear of what humanity might truly be capable of if they chose to fight. The retreat order came at last. With slow engines and heavier hearts, the Imperial fleet turned away from the battlefield. No songs of victory, no proud reports, no shining triumphs, only silence. In the days that followed, the story spread like fire across the galaxy. From merchant routes to hidden rebel outposts, from slave colonies to royal courts, everyone heard of the day the mighty Galactic Empire was mocked. Tales grew, some true, some twisted, but all carried the same weight. Humanity had faced the Empire and laughed. And the Empire had done nothing. For those who had suffered under the Empire's rule, the story was hope. For those who served the Empire, it was shame. And for the humans, it was only the beginning. The commander knew this truth even as his ship limped home. He could already hear the whispers that would reach the Emperor's throne. He could already feel the eyes of history turning upon him. He had not lost ships, but he had lost something greater. the illusion that the Empire was unshakable, and the humans had won without firing a single killing shot. They had shown the galaxy that the Empire could bleed, not from wounds of war but from wounds of pride. They had shown that laughter, sharp and merciless, could shatter fear itself. From that day forward, the Empire carried a scar. Every order, every command, every new conquest was shadowed by the memory of mocking voices in the dark. And somewhere beyond their borders, humanity grew stronger, their legend spreading, their presence feared. The day the humans laughed was not a battle. It was not a war. It was something greater, a silent victory that would echo across the stars for generations to come. And in the silence that followed, the Empire finally understood the truth. They had met a new power, and that power did not fear them.